Hi guys, welcome back to Eye of the Beholder, where we review the Dungeons & Dragons miniatures created by WOTC and WizKids for the 20-year period between 2003 through 2023. With today's video, we'll be finishing up with the Feywild. Chords first appeared in 1983's first edition Monster Manual 2. Befitting their chaotic neutral alignment, they value freedom above all else. Closely associated with the earth, these boisterous creatures are all about the fun. They are known as the dancing folk. Fun fact, the hair of a chord can be animated to entangle its foes and is rumored to take on properties of any element it comes into contact with.
As with the Sea Hag minis a couple of videos back, we get two Choreds from WizKids from separate sets, but so much alike I'm going to review them together. The first from 2019's Volo and Mordenkainen's faux set with brown hair, and the second 2 years later in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight set with slightly darker brown hair. Both are armed with whips woven from their hair, and both have identical facial features and hair, including their signature magnificent stash. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 59.
From the OG Fiend folio, we get the Meanlock. Deformed Fae that avoid direct combat at all costs, they prefer to pick off individual victims, torturing them telepathically from concealment. Usually working in small groups, they delight in corrupting all that is pure and good. Fun fact, if the chosen victim dies from the telepathic attack, they rise as a Meanlock.
We get our only Meanlock mini in 2019's Volos and Mordenkainen's faux set. The uniform mustard yellow with a splash of dark wash for detailing is it for colors. It's posed in its usual crouching stance as if hiding behind a boulder. All in all, not a great mini, but at least it's a common, so it should be easy enough to put together a small band to terrorize the PCs from afar. Score: Paint 10, Pose 12, Playability 16, Pizzazz 11, for a score of 49.
Nymphs are the embodiment of nature's physical beauty. Often appearing as gorgeous women or handsome men, they are the guardians of the forests and other wild places of the Feywild. There are many types of nymphs: Lympads, nymphs of the underworld; Dryads who protect the forests; Alcide of the plains; the rarely seen Naiad water nymph; and the Oread of the mountains. There are many others, but these are the nymph minis that we have, all from 2020's Mythic Odyssey of Theros set.
The rarely seen Lampad are known to guide the souls from the mortal to spiritual realms, which means that when they are spotted, it's generally around graveyards or known portals to the underworld. The Lampad Mini is a uniform midnight blue. It looks like WizKids used a very dark translucent plastic for the sculpt. Posed kneeling as if resting or perhaps waiting for lost souls to guide. It's okay mini. Score: Paint 12, Pose 13, Playability 13, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 55. Our next nymph is this Dryad, also posed on her knees, leaning slightly backward while her upraised hand seems to be holding, well, I'm not really sure. It kind of looks like something is sprouting from her palm. Colored in mottled greens with a face that, while difficult to make out, does have an expression of aloof serenity on it. Score: Paint 11, Pose 12, Playability 13, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 49. I really like the look of this Alcide nymph mini. Poses as if striding through a field of yellow grass, arms outstretched as waves of radiant energy flow from his head, down through his right arm and scatter in the wind. This is the rare nymph that appears to be male. Bare-chested, his grayish skin is heavily mottled with yellow spotting. I definitely use him as a wandering monster just to see the player's reaction as he strides towards them out of the grasslands. Score: Paint 17, Pose 21, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 80. Next up is this Naiad nymph. Great detailing by WizKids on covering the base with translucent blue plastic with white highlights. It really emphasizes the Naiad's connection with water as he strides through the eddies and currents of his home. His blue body is heavily augmented with silver highlights, especially on the back of the legs and in the long, flowing hair. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 62. Our final nymph is this fiery Oread. She appears to be nude, her skin a combination of tans and dark browns. Of course, she is surrounded by absolutely stunning swirling flames of translucent orange, emphasizing her aggressive and unpredictable nature. And while it's hard to see behind the flames, she has the best facial detailing of all the nymphs, with cat-like eyes beneath her back-swept hair. Score: Paint 18, Pose 24, Playability 17, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 84.
Quicklings are blindingly fast Fae who delight in causing malicious mischief. Using their speed to attack from ambush, they are practically invisible while in motion. Natural sneaks, they often serve more powerful evil Fae as spies, assassins, and saboteurs. Fun fact, although probably not to them, due to their increased metabolism, they have short lifespans, running about 15 years.
We get our first Quickling in 2008's Demon Web set. He's a bit on the large size for a Quickling, in my opinion. Armed with two short swords, he also seems to be strangely stationary for a species. The upright pose in no way connotes movement. Blue body is creature correct, with a brown loincloth covering his naughty bits. Nice bit of detailing on the white claws, teeth, and eyes. Score: Paint 12, Pose 10, Playability 13, Pizzazz 11, for a score of 46. WizKids takes their first crack at Quicklings in their inaugural set, 2014's Tyranny of Dragons. And while they get the size correct, we again get a Quickling that's just standing there. If they ain't moving, they're sitting ducks. Again, armed with twin daggers, the darker blue body is better defined than the WOTC version, with brown loincloth and hair for contrast. Score: Paint 13, Pose 10, Playability 13, Pizzazz 12, for a score of 48. Finally, someone understands the assignment. Third time's a charm, huh guys? 2021's The Wild Beyond the Witchlight set finally gets it right. Here we get a Quickling doing what he does best, moving. Leaning into the run, WizKids use a transparent stand to pose the mini with both feet off the ground, arms pumping and white hair streaming behind. We also get a much better color palette, clothing this mini in tan breeches and brown tunic and boots. Score: Paint 14, Pose 23, Playability 16, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 71.
Redcaps are evil little bastards with an insatiable bloodlust, so much so that they dip their caps in the blood of their victims, hence the name. More to the point, they have to do this. If they don't refresh the blood in their caps, they fade away. No subtlety or mamby-pamby ambushing from these guys. They come right at you, boots stomping and weapons swinging.
Again, WizKids gives us two red cap minis in two different sets without a whit of difference between them. So let's review them together. The one with the dark base is from 2017's Tomb of Annihilation. The clear-based one comes from 2021's The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Both are armed with small sickles, raised in a menacing manner, and both are clad in the black iron boots they are known for. As they are both common, getting together a raiding party shouldn't be difficult. I have 8 between the two. Score: Paint 13, Pose 13, Playability 15, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 54.
Satyrs are hedonistic party animals, always ready for a wild night of wine, followed by an even wilder night of debauchery. Think Bluto from Animal House. Always male, they are proficient with bow or blade, but their most notable weapon is a set of panpipes that produce a variety of magical effects. If caught unarmed, no worries, they will simply ram their foe with their horns. That being said, admit it, you want to party with these guys.
WOTC gives us our first satyr in 2005's Underdark set. Mostly brown with the exception of his black horns, he is holding a bow in one hand while... is he eating a sandwich? I mean, I know it's supposed to be his pan flute, but it sure looks like a sandwich. Whatever he's doing, the pose conveys a sense of relaxed readiness right after he's done eating. Score: Paint 12, Pose 11, Playability 13, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 49. "11 years later, WizKids gives us their version of the satyr in 2016's Monster Menagerie set. Physically smaller than the WOTC version, but I do like that their overall pose is more animated, sword out and pan flute at the ready. Dressed in a brown leather vest and tan loincloth leaves the legs free, displaying the fur and hooves they are known for. Score: Paint 13, Pose 13, Playability 14, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 55. I'm going to review these two minis together because even if they don't look like it at first glance, they are the same. From 2020's Mythic Odyssey of Theros set, we get the Satyr Fire Dancer and Satyr Thorn Bearer. Note the pose. Crouch with a slight lean forward, eyes locked forward upon their foe. So while the sculpt is the same, they are wildly different. Of course, the most notable aspect of the Fire Dancer mini is the ball of fire somehow attached to a chain that he is whirling about his head. The translucent orange of the flames arcs behind his red cloak. Also, note the tattoo on his chest. The Thorn Bearer is not as flashy, dressed in forest greens and sporting a bow and arrow. Again, not as flashy, but probably more playable. Scores: Fire Dancer, Paint 20, Pose 25, Playability 15, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 85. Thorn Bearer, Paint 20, Pose 20, Playability 20, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 78.
Shatterkai are to the Eladrin of the Feywild as drow are to elves. They are bitter and malicious, but somewhat understandable, as the very shadow magic they employ inexorably draws them into the plains of shadows. Graceful in battle, they tend to employ weapons that match their grace and agility. A favorite is a spike chain, which can strike almost as a ranged weapon. Fun fact, Shatterkai hate everyone that is not them, and even then, relationships amongst themselves lean into the masochistic.
We get our first Shatterkai in 2007's Desert of Desolation set. Called a Shatterkai Assassin, he wields the spike chain the race is known for. Eschewing armor, he attacks bare-chested, but with the practical touch of wearing leather gauntlets. Blue trousers with some interesting silver inlay and blonde hair complete the look. Pose has him in full attack mode, chain whirling about his body as he moves in for the kill. Score: Paint 16, Pose 17, Playability 17, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 70. We get two Shatterkai in WOTC's 2010 set, Lords of Madness. The first is this common Shatterkai warrior. clad in black leather armor over brown trousers and black boots. To me, the face is not quite pale enough, but that could be a good thing, as you could easily use this mini as a human spy or assassin. Armed with twin punch daggers, he strides confidently forward, looking to turn someone into a pincushion. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 18, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 62. The second Shatterkai mini from the set is this rare Shatterkai witch. Clad in a black dress with matching opera gloves that reach almost to the shoulder, she appears to be captured mid-spell, and quite the intense one based on the crouched pose and especially her ponytail whirling about her head. Skin is properly pale. Note the tattooing on her head, face, and shoulder. Score: Paint 13, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 56. WizKids gives us their first Shatterkai mini in 2019's Volos and Mordenkainen's Foes set. For a miniature called a Shadow Dancer, pose-wise it's a bit pedantic, don't you think? We do get some pretty nice facial detailing, but I would have liked to have seen some more movement from the sculpt. Clad in leather armor over a red tunic, the most interesting detail is the twin chains dangling from each wrist. Definitely weapons and not an escaped prisoner. Score: Paint 13, Pose 11, Playability 14, Pizzazz 12, for a score of 50. Our last Shatterkai mini comes from 2020's Fangs and Talons set, called a Gloomweaver, and unlike the previous mini, the sculpt matches the name. I don't know if it's a spell effect or just normal when Gloomweavers walk, but I love the translucent purple necrotic flame sprouting from the base as he strides forward with a determined look on his face. The dark leather of the garb offsets the pallor of his face and arms, but I'm not sure what the white blob over his left buttock is. Score: Paint 16, Pose 19, Playability 15, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 70.
Despite their size, sprites are fierce defenders of good, perfectly willing to take on larger foes if they determine they are evil, something they are quite good at as they are excellent judges of character. Considered overly sullen by their more fun-loving pixie cousins, they are quick to come to the aid of good-natured creatures, often striking with surprise as they enthusiastically join the battle. Fun fact: sprites are expert brewers of potions and poisons, which they use to coat their arrows and blades with prior to battle.
We get two variants of sprites in 2016's Storm King's Thunder set, one armed with a sword and the other a spear. Mounted on a small base but with an extremely tall, clear stand, the small size makes detailing hard to make out. There is a bit of facial features though, and using translucent plastic for the wings was a big plus. Obviously posed mid-flight, I do like the stretched out, slightly arched positions of the bodies. Score: Paint 13, Pose 16, Playability 18, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 62. Five years later, we get this Sprite Mini in the Wild Beyond the Witchlight set. It's hard to tell, but based on the cut of the tunic, this one looks female to me. The clear base and curved stand does a better impression of flight. The curved stand allows the Mini to be posed as if hovering as she brings her bow to bear. Between this Mini and the previous ones, we can build quite the varied ambush party of sprites, as all three are common. Bows from concealment before the main force attacks with sword and spear. Score: Paint 14, Pose 18, Playability 18, Pizzazz 17, for a score of 67. From the same Wild Beyond the Witchlight set, we get this Pixie Mini. Now this one is definitely female, as her green tunic and translucent butterfly wings match the book art precisely. More frivolous than their sprite cousins, she is unarmed and appears to be displaying herself, hovering in midair while her arms are stretched to the side. If pixies were real, they would definitely have Instagram and TikTok accounts. Score: Paint 14, Pose 20, Playability 13, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 72.
Thorns are masters of camouflage and guardians of other fey creatures. Their name comes not from their nature, but from the swords they carry, which are constructed from thorny plants. Like sprites, they also coat their arrows, usually with a sleep potion.
Our only Thorn mini comes from 2005's Angel Fire set. Carrying both bow and his trademark sword, he stands ready for action. For an early small mini, WOTC does a pretty well on both the paint and the detailing. Earth colors for the body and armor, black for the weapons, topped with some pretty solid facial features. Playability might be an issue as it isn't uncommon from an early set, so probably tough to get. Score: Paint 13, Pose 14, Playability 12, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 52.
Valinor horses are prize steeds for the Eladrin and elves. Fey creatures infused with magic, with high intelligence and strength, they are more than able to defend themselves if necessary. Fun fact, riders do not choose a Valinor steed, he chooses you. It is a great honor among the Fey to charge into battle astride these noble beasts.
We get our only Valinor horse in 2020's Eberron Rising from the Last War set, and it's beautiful. Its violet cloak, speckled with stardust, is sleek and glossy, only matched by the shiny black mane and very long tail. Note how it stretches to the ground. Pose's classic horse, one foreleg raised and head turned to one side with its ears straight up. Note the pink in her ears. Something has caught its attention. Not sure how playable it is, but imagine having this appear from a glade before your PCs as a wandering monster. Great role-playing op if you ask me. Score: Paint 25, Pose 14, Playability 17, Pizzazz 21, for a score of 77.
And with that, we are finished with the denizens of the Feywild. If you're a regular watcher of the channel, you can probably guess where I'm going to go next. Fee, fi, fo, fum. But if anyone has any suggestions, I'm open to it. Let me know in the comments. Thanks as always for watching Eye of the Beholder. Please like or subscribe if you like what you see.